The noise under Oshodi Bridge was wild that afternoon. Yellow buses were shouting for passengers. People were rushing like the ground was on fire. Horns, music, smoke. But beside one big black trash bin, everything went quiet. Silas was standing there, frozen. He was not supposed to stop here. He was not supposed to be out of the car. He was not supposed to feel like this. His hand was still shaking, because he knew that face. The woman's dress was torn and brown, like it had been dragged on the road. Her hair was rough, scattered, full of dust. Her eyes were red and wet. She was shaking as she picked old food from the bin with one hand and pushed it into her mouth with the other. And she was crying while eating it. Not normal crying, broken crying, like a person who has lost everything. "Sir?" His driver, Joel, whispered. "Should I move the car? People are looking." Silas did not answer. He could not hear the traffic anymore. He could not feel the heat. He could not feel anything in that moment except one thing. This cannot be real. It cannot be her. No, no. But the way she moved, the shape of her face, the way her mouth shook when she cried. His chest started to feel tight. "Stop the car," he had said before. Now he said, "Wait here," and stepped out. And now, here he was, standing a few steps away from the woman who destroyed him, the woman who left him, the woman who called him useless, the woman who said, "You will never make it." He swallowed. Then, soft at first, almost like he was scared of his own voice, he said her name. "Benita?" The woman froze. Slow, slow, slow. Her shoulders locked. Her hand stopped in the trash can. Her whole body began to shake. Then she turned, and the world in Silas's head broke into two. It was her. It was her. It was Bonita. But not the Bonita he remembered. Not the Bonita with neat makeup and small gold earrings. Not the Bonita that used to stand in front of the mirror and say, "I was not born for suffering." Not the Bonita that used to tell him, "One day I will wear diamonds. One day people will respect me." No, this Bonita was thin. Too thin. Her cheekbones were sharp. Her lips were dry and almost white. Her eyes were wide, scared, like someone who slept on the street for too long. And when she saw him, she covered her mouth with both hands and made a sound that was not even a word. It was pain. "See." Her voice cracked. "Silas?" He felt his throat burn. For 3 years, he had not heard her call his name. 3 years. 3 years since the night she walked out. 3 years since she told him he was dragging her down. 3 years since she said, "I can't suffer with you anymore, Silas. I'm not your slave. I deserve better." 3 years since she chose another man over him. And now she was here, eating from a trash can, under a bridge, in public, with people walking past like she was not even human. He took one step closer. "What happened to you?" he asked. Benita shook her head fast, like she didn't want him to see her like this. She started wiping her face, wiping her tears with her dirty hands, like she wanted to hide the shame. But the more she wiped, the more she cried. "Don't look at me," she whispered. "Please, Silas, please don't look at me." And then she dropped to her knees on the rough concrete, right there, on the dirty floor. Beside the trash bin, people turned to look now. A few slowed down. Lagos people don't mind their business when the thing is sweet. Silas felt anger rise in him. Not anger at her, anger at the world. Anger at anybody that let her become like this. Anger at himself, because even after everything she did to him, his first feeling when he saw her was not good for you. It was, "Who did this to you?" He bent down. "Benita," he said, voice firm now. "Stand up." She was crying so hard she could not breathe well. "I'm sorry," she said. "Silas, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I swear I didn't know. I didn't know he was like that. I didn't know what he was. I thought..." He held her arm, and that was when he felt it. Her arm was bone. Just bone. No flesh. No weight. Something inside him cracked. This was his wife. No. His ex-wife. The woman who told him he was too small. The woman who told him, "Love is not enough. Money is respect." The woman who packed her things and left him because he was poor. The woman who said, "There is a man who can take care of me. A real man." The woman who walked away with Simon. And now she was shaking in his hand like a sick bird. He swallowed hard. "Get in the car," he said. Benita's eyes flew open. "No. No, Silas. Please. she said fast, panicking. Don't take me to the police. Please. I swear I didn't steal. I didn't do anything. I just wanted to eat. I just wanted to stay alive. I'm not mad. I'm not a thief. Please, don't hand me over. He blinked. Hand her over? God, what had she been living like? He pulled off his jacket and put it around her shoulders. People around them had started whispering. Is that not Silas Okafor? Ah, that's the Syntech guy, the billionaire. Wait, is that his woman? Chai, see how she is. God, life is wicked. And then he saw it in her face. The moment she realized, the moment she understood who he had become. Her eyes dropped to the car waiting by the road, the black SUV, the one with the armored doors. Her eyes dropped to the driver in suit. Her eyes dropped to his watch, his shoes, the way he moved. She looked up at him, like she was looking at a ghost. Silas, she swallowed. You're rich? He just stared at her. She let out a small laugh. But it was not joy, it was pain. So it happened, she whispered, her voice shaking. It really happened. Her knees almost gave way. He caught her before she hit the ground. Joel, he shouted, open the back door. Now. The driver ran. Benita was still crying. Please don't leave me here, she whispered into his chest. Please, Silas. Please. I don't want to die here. I'm not leaving you, he said. And he meant it. Because here is the part nobody knew when they looked at him and called him lucky. Because here is the part he never said on TV. Because here is the part the blogs didn't write when they called him the face of African AI and the miracle founder. He used to love this woman, like life. He used to believe that he and Bonita would build something together. He used to believe she would be there when his idea finally worked. He used to believe she was his forever. And now, forever was kneeling on the ground, begging him not to leave her under a bridge. He helped her into the SUV. Her hands were still shaking. Her body smelled like sweat, street rain, and hunger. She was embarrassed. He could feel it. She kept wiping her face and hiding her mouth with her palm, like a little girl who did something wrong. He sat beside her in the back seat and shut the door. Drive, he told Joel. To the house, sir? Joel asked. No, Silas said. Salon first. Joel looked at him in the rear mirror. Yes, sir. The SUV pulled away from Oshodi. Bonita sat there, holding Silas's jacket tight around her, staring at him like she could not believe that he was real. Like she could not believe that the man she left to suffer was sitting now in a bulletproof car with private security. Like she could not believe he was the same Silas. And then, slowly, with a voice that sounded tired in her bones, she said the words he had waited 3 years to hear. Silas, I didn't leave you because I didn't love you. He turned his face toward her. His eyes had gone cold. Because that sentence, that one sentence, it hit something deep. Then why did you leave? He asked. Her lips shook. And that was when she finally said it. She told him. She told him what happened after she walked out of his one-room apartment that night. She told him what Simon really was. She told him what Simon tried to do to her. And as she started to speak, Silas felt his jaw tighten, his blood rise, and his hand curl into a fist. Because what she said next did not just sound like pain. It sounded like danger. It sounded like death. And it was the beginning of something he did not see coming. Something that could still destroy him. Something that had not ended. Yet, the car moved quietly through the busy Lagos streets. Rain clouds were gathering in the distance, but inside the black SUV, the silence was louder than thunder. Benita sat beside Silas, trembling. She kept her hands folded tightly on her lap, her eyes staring at nothing. Her lips moved like she wanted to speak, but didn't know how. Silas finally broke the silence. Talk to me, Benita, he said calmly, though his chest was burning. What really happened after you left? Benita's voice came out soft and cracked. I thought I was walking into a better life, she began. When I left you, I followed Simon. He promised me heaven. He said I would never lack anything again. He bought me clothes, phones, perfume, things I thought I deserved. Her eyes grew wet again. I thought I made the right choice, Silas. I was so blind. Silas said nothing. He just stared at her. She looked out of the car window as she continued. The first few weeks were fine. He took me to fancy restaurants, introduced me to friends that called him Boss Simon. He told me he was into oil and shipping. But one night, I woke up and found him kneeling before a mirror with blood dripping from his hand. Silas blinked. Blood? Bonita nodded quickly. Her fingers shook as she spoke. He didn't see me. I hid behind the door and watched. He was saying strange things, names I didn't understand. There were candles everywhere, Silas. Black candles. Her voice broke. That was the night I realized he wasn't who I thought he was. Silas leaned back, his face hard. Why didn't you leave then? I tried, she said. I packed my bags the next morning, but when I told him I wanted to go, he smiled and said, "You can't leave me alive." I laughed because I thought he was joking. But later that night, he locked me inside a room. He said he needed a sacrifice. He said I was special because I once married a man with destiny. She covered her mouth, shaking, as tears streamed down her face. He said you, Silas, were meant for greatness, and that by marrying you, I carried a part of your destiny. He wanted to use me for rituals to take your blessings. Silas froze. What? He whispered. Benita nodded, crying harder. He said you would rise one day, and if he offered me, he would rise with your light. I didn't even understand what he meant. I just kept crying. He cut my arm that night and used the blood for something I didn't see. I thought I would die. The driver, Joel, looked back briefly in the mirror, eyes wide, but Silas lifted a hand, telling him to keep driving. Go on, Silas said quietly. One morning, I woke up and he was gone, Benita said. The doors were open, and everything in the house, money, jewelry, documents, was gone. He disappeared. Neighbors said he ran away after killing someone in Surulere. I was too weak to move. I stayed in that house for 3 days without food or water. Her voice cracked again. Then the landlord threw me out. I begged. I slept outside. I searched for work. But nobody wanted to hire a dirty woman without ID or address. That's how I ended up under the bridge. Every night I prayed I would die before morning. Silas looked out of the window. His hand tightened on his knee. He remembered how she used to mock him for dreaming too big, how she said Syntech was a foolish idea. Now here she was, broken, speaking of rituals and regrets. He didn't know whether to pity her or hate her. The car stopped in front of a modern salon at Surulere. The signboard glowed bright. Heaven Touch Beauty Spa. Come down, he said. Benita blinked in confusion. What? You're getting cleaned up, Silas said firmly. You're not staying in my car smelling like pain. Joel opened the door for her. The workers inside the salon looked shocked as Silas entered. Everyone recognized him instantly. The famous Syntech founder, the billionaire who once trended for donating 200 million to orphan homes. He handed his card to the receptionist. Full treatment, he said. Hair, nails, skin, clothes, whatever she needs. The receptionist's mouth opened slightly. Yes, sir, she stammered. Benita looked down, ashamed. Silas, please, you don't have to. Don't talk. He cut her off. Just do it. He turned and walked out. He stood by the car, arms crossed, staring at nothing as he remembered the old days. He saw himself again 3 years ago, a struggling programmer working from a small room with a cracked laptop. The nights he stayed awake, coding, sweating, hungry, dreaming. He remembered how Bonita would sigh loudly and say, "Is this what I married? You and your useless computer." He smiled bitterly. Now the same useless computer had built Syntech, a company valued at billions with offices in Dubai, London, and Abuja. The same man she called Poor Dreamer was now one of the most powerful names in Nigeria's tech industry. Still, as he stood there, part of him hurt deeply. He had imagined seeing her again one day, maybe happy, maybe successful. Not like this, not broken. An hour later, Benita came out. She looked human again. Her hair was neat, her face clean, her skin glowing slightly under the Sunday. She wore a simple new gown the salon had provided, but her eyes were still full of sadness. "Thank you," she whispered. He didn't respond. He opened the car door and said, "Let's go." They drove to a nearby boutique next. Benita hesitated at the entrance. "I don't belong here, Silas. People will..." He interrupted. "Go inside." She obeyed. When they finished, she was holding a shopping bag and wearing new slippers. They got back into the car. Silas opened the glove compartment and pulled out a brown envelope. He placed it on her lap. Inside was not 10 million cash. Benita's eyes widened. "Silas, what's this?" "For you," he said simply. "Start a business, find a house, eat food that isn't from the trash." She began shaking her head. "No, I can't take this. I don't deserve it. You don't, he said coldly. But take it anyway. Tears fell fast down her face. She dropped to her knees on the car floor. Silas, I destroyed you, she said. I mocked you. I left you when you had nothing. I don't even know why you're helping me. He looked at her for a long moment before speaking softly. Because I'm not the same man you left, Benita. I learned that success without forgiveness is still failure, and is no bring. In the sepsust, she cried harder. You're a good man, Silas. I was foolish. If I had waited just a little longer, maybe. Her voice faded. She couldn't finish the sentence. He turned his face to the window. Don't think about it, he said. Just rebuild your life. But as the car drove away, something inside Silas stirred. Something didn't feel right about Simon disappearing. The story felt incomplete, like a door had been left open. Simon had said he wanted to use Bonita to take Silas's destiny, and now Silas was one of the richest men in Africa. What if it wasn't coincidence? What if Simon was still out there, watching, waiting? Silas didn't know it yet, but the ghosts of Bonita's past were not gone. They were coming for him next. The night was quiet inside Silas's mansion at Banana Island. The house, all glass and marble, shimmered under the moonlight that spilled through the tall windows. The air smelled faintly of cedar and power, the kind of scent that only came from a man who had conquered everything the world once told him he couldn't have. But that night, Silas couldn't sleep. He sat in his study, wearing a plain white shirt, staring at the city lights through the window. The sound of the waves from the lagoon below was faint, but his mind was loud. Benita's story kept echoing in his head. He said you were meant for greatness. He wanted to steal your destiny. He laughed to himself, but there was no humor in it. How can someone steal destiny? He muttered. Nonsense. And yet, something about her fear had felt real. The way she trembled when she spoke Simon's name. The scars on her wrist. The way she said he disappeared. Silas rubbed his temples. Maybe it was just guilt. Maybe she had imagined it all after the trauma. Still, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching him. A faint knock broke his thoughts. Come in, he said. Joel, his driver, stepped in. Sir, sorry to disturb you this late. There's someone at the gate. Silas frowned. At this hour? Yes, sir, Joel said quietly. He says he's from the police. Silas stood immediately. What's wrong? Joel hesitated. He said they found something. He insists on seeing you personally. Silas grabbed his wristwatch, adjusted his collar, and followed Joel down the long hallway. The lights flickered slightly as they walked something that never happened before. The night felt heavier. When they reached the gate, a man in plain clothes was waiting. His ID card flashed under the security light. Good evening, Mr. Silas, the man said, voice deep and steady. Detective Idris. From Panty. Silas nodded slowly. What's this about? Idris held up a small photo, printed and worn. It was a blurred picture, but Silas recognized the face. Simon. Benita's Simon. Silas's jaw tightened. This man, Idris said, was found dead in an abandoned warehouse near Ikeja. We traced a few of his old contacts and found your name among them. Mind telling me how you know him? Silas crossed his arms. That's my ex-wife's former partner. She told me he disappeared 3 years ago. Idris nodded. We believe he was part of a ritual syndicate that operated between Lagos and Benin City. We found evidence strange things. Black candles, markings, books, and something else. He reached into his file and pulled out a photo of a wooden carving, small, human-shaped, but with Silas's full name carved into its chest. Silas's throat went dry. Where did you get that? In the warehouse, Idris replied. Looks like he had an interest in you, sir. Do you have any enemies? Silas swallowed hard. His heart pounded like thunder. I don't know, he said finally. But that man, he tried to use my ex-wife for ritual. She barely escaped. The detective scribbled something in his notebook. We might need to talk to her too. Silas nodded. She's in Surulere. I helped her earlier today. I'll send you the address. Thank you, sir. Idris shook his hand. And one more thing. If you notice anything strange, call me immediately. We're not sure this case is closed yet. When Idris left, Silas stood by the gate for a long time, the cool breeze hitting his face. The night suddenly felt darker. The next morning, he sat at his breakfast table with Victoria, the woman who had brought sunshine back into his life. She was tall, caramel-skinned, elegant, wearing a silk robe and a calm smile. Her voice was soft but firm, the kind that carried peace wherever it went. "You didn't sleep again," she said gently. Silas nodded. "Just thinking." "About her?" He looked up, surprised. "Who told you?" Victoria smiled faintly. "You don't have to hide it, Silas. I know what's been bothering you. The past doesn't disappear overnight." Silas sighed. "Benita was under that bridge, Victoria, eating from trash. If you had seen her." He paused, shaking his head. "I don't even know what to feel." Victoria placed her hand over his. "You did what a good man would do. You helped her. That's enough." Her words soothed him. He smiled faintly. "You always know what to say." "That's my job," she teased. "I'm your peace manager." They both laughed softly. For a moment, things felt normal again. Until Silas's phone rang. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "Hello?" Silence. Then a deep male voice whispered, "You took what was not yours." Silas froze. "Who is this?" "You think destiny cannot be borrowed," the voice said. "He died, but his shadow lives. You're walking with something that doesn't belong to you." Click. The call ended. Victoria noticed the look on his face. "What happened?" Silas stared at the phone screen. I don't know. Maybe a prank." But his hand was trembling. Later that afternoon, he drove to Surulere to check on Bonita. The boutique he helped her open had a small sign now. Bonita's Fresh Mart. When he stepped inside, she was standing behind the counter, sorting goods. Her eyes widened when she saw him. "Silas?" she said softly. "You came." He nodded. "Just checking. How's business?" "It's growing." She smiled weakly. "People are kind. I'm still learning. But I'm trying." "That's good," he said. But his tone was distracted. Benita noticed. "You look worried." He told her about Detective Idris, about Simon's death, about the strange phone call. Her face went pale. "Silas," she whispered. "He's not dead." "What?" Her voice shook. "Simon can't die that easily. When he tried to kill me, I saw something that night. His reflection wasn't in the mirror. He said his soul had been shared. He used to laugh and say, 'Even if my body dies, I will walk through others.'" Silas stared at her, disbelief clouding his mind. "Benita, that's not possible." She stepped closer, gripping his arm. "You don't understand. When he cut me, he said, 'I've taken part of his light. He'll rise fast, but I'll still be there to collect what's mine when the time comes.'" "Silas, he was talking about you." For a second, everything stopped. The hum of traffic outside, the ticking clock, his heartbeat. It all went still. Then a loud crash outside made them both jump. A car had rammed into a pole right in front of the shop. Smoke hissed from the bonnet. Silas rushed out immediately, but the driver's seat was empty. No one was there. Only a small note sat on the dashboard, written in black ink. "I told you, Silas. Borrowed light always fades." He looked around wildly, but the street was empty. Benita came running behind him, terrified. "What's happening?" Silas's mind was spinning. He didn't believe in curses. He didn't believe in spirits. But deep inside, something cold crept into his chest. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. It was just beginning. The next few days were a blur of unease. Silas still went to work, still wore his confident smile, still shook hands with foreign investors who wanted a piece of Syntech. But inside, something felt wrong. Everywhere he went, it followed him, the whispers, the flickers of shadows, the sudden chills that made him stop breathing for a second. And then the accidents began. First, his lead engineer's laptop exploded during a test run. Then, a server at the Lagos branch caught fire. And one night, when Silas was about to drive home, his SUV's brake lines snapped, but by some miracle, he wasn't inside yet. The police said it was sabotage. Victoria said it was jealousy. Benita said it was Simon. And Silas? He didn't know what to believe anymore. It was 2:30 a.m. when his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He hesitated, staring at the screen. Then he answered, "Hello?" Static. Then a whisper, deep and rough, the same voice from before. "You're enjoying my destiny, Silas," it said. "But I'm patient. You'll soon understand what borrowed light means." Silas's heart hammered. "Who are you?" The line went dead. He threw the phone on the table, stood up, and walked to the window. The lagoon looked peaceful, but the city lights flickered faintly, like something was breathing behind them. He was still staring when he heard footsteps. "Silas?" Victoria's sleepy voice came from behind him. She stood by the doorway in her robe, eyes half closed. "You're not in bed again." He turned to her and forced a smile. "Just thinking." She walked closer, wrapping her arms around him. "About work?" He hesitated. "No. About Simon." She looked up sharply. "Again?" He nodded. "Something doesn't add up. The man's dead, yet someone's calling me using his voice. The police found a carving with my name on it, and now these accidents." Victoria frowned. "Do you really think it's spiritual?" He didn't answer. She sighed and touched his face. "Then let's pray, Silas. Let's do what you've not done in a long time." He smiled faintly. "You sound like my mother." "Maybe I should," she replied softly. "You're fighting something you can't see. It's time you stop fighting alone." That morning, they invited Pastor Daniel, a calm, middle-aged man who had once helped Silas's company bless their new headquarters. He was tall, gentle, and carried a quiet strength that made people feel safe. When he arrived, he placed his Bible on the glass table and said, "The moment you succeed, you open a new door. Some doors bring blessings, others bring attention." Silas folded his arms. "Attention from who?" "From anyone who once sowed a seed of darkness around you," Daniel said. "Sometimes we walk into traps built years before we were ready for success." Benita's words flashed in Silas's head. "He said he needed me because I carried your destiny." "Pastor," Victoria asked softly, "can something like that really happen?" Daniel nodded slowly. "The spiritual world is full of trade. People exchange time, favor, even lives. Some rituals delay. Some activate only when the victim prospers. If this man truly invoked Silas's name before he died, then his spirit may be trying to reclaim what he failed to take in life." Silas felt his stomach twist. "So, what do I do?" "First, you forgive completely," Daniel said. "Then we pray." Bonita arrived later that evening, trembling as she entered the mansion. She knelt immediately. "I'm sorry, Silas. I didn't know it would reach this far." Silas lifted her up. "You've said that enough, Benita. What's done is done." Daniel asked her to describe the ritual night again. Every detail. The mirror. The blood. The words Simon said. Benita's hands shook as she spoke. He said, "The day he rises, I'll rise through him." He repeated it over and over. Daniel's eyes narrowed. "That's a binding oath. But the good thing is, light speaks louder than darkness." He asked everyone to kneel. He prayed hard, his voice deep, echoing through the house. At first, it was calm. Then, suddenly, the lights flickered. Victoria gasped. The chandelier above them began to shake slightly. "Don't stop," Daniel shouted. "He's fighting back." Silas's chest grew tight. He could feel something cold crawl up his spine, like invisible fingers pressing on his shoulders. Then, from nowhere, the TV came on by itself. The screen was black, and then a face appeared. Simon's. Benita screamed. His face looked pale, half-burned, eyes sunken, lips twisted into a grin. "I told you," the voice said through the speakers. Borrowed light always fades. The sound system screeched. The power went out. Total darkness. Victoria clung to Silas, shaking. Benita fell on the floor, crying. Daniel's voice was loud and fierce now. "You have no right here. Leave in the name of Jesus." And then, silence. The lights came back on. Simon's face was gone, but on the marble floor, where Silas had been kneeling, was a faint handprint, black and smoky, like someone had pressed hot ash into the ground. Everyone stared. Victoria whispered, "Silas, what does this mean?" Daniel stood slowly. "It means he's not done yet. It is monde. We well proskop stinges." The next morning, Silas walked through his company lobby, trying to shake off the fear. The workers greeted him, smiling as if everything was normal. The large digital screens showed Syntec's stock value rising again. Investors were happy. But Silas couldn't feel joy. He was halfway to his office when his assistant, Chioma, rushed toward him. "Sir, there's a letter for you," she said, panting. It was dropped at the reception by someone in black. He frowned. "What does it say?" She handed it to him carefully. The envelope was black, same as the handprint from last night. Inside was a short note. "Destiny borrowed must be repaid in blood or in legacy. Choose before the next moon." Silas's hands trembled as he folded the paper. His vision blurred for a moment. For the first time in years, the man who built billions out of nothing felt powerless. He looked up, and through the glass wall of his office, he saw a figure standing across the street, a tall man, in a black coat, watching him. When Silas blinked, the man was gone. His heart raced. Something was coming, something he could not code, calculate, or control. And he was running out of time. Rain poured hard that night, the kind of rain that beat on the roof like war drums. The sky over Lagos was dark, the lightning flashing white across the windows of Syntec towers. Inside his penthouse office, Silas stood alone. His suit jacket lay on the chair behind him, his white shirt damp with sweat. He hadn't gone home in 2 days. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, Simon's voice echoed in his head. Destiny borrowed must be repaid, in blood or in legacy. O night. Those words had lived inside his mind like fire. He had tried everything: prayers with Pastor Daniel, fasting, charity donations, even flying in a spiritual consultant from Ghana. Nothing worked. The strange shadow in his dreams remained. The whisper followed him through mirrors, reflections, even glass doors. But tonight, he decided something. He wasn't going to run anymore. If Simon wanted to take something, he would face him himself. The door opened quietly. Victoria stepped in, wearing a long robe, her face pale but strong. She had refused to leave him, no matter how much he begged. "Still here," she said softly, walking closer. "You haven't eaten again." "I can't eat," he said without turning. "Not when I don't even know if I'll wake up tomorrow." She walked to his side and placed her hand on his arm. "Stop saying that, Silas. You fought too hard to lose hope now." He turned to her. His eyes were tired. "I'm not scared of dying, Victoria. I'm scared of the reason." "The reason?" "That my success, everything I built, was never really mine." Victoria gripped his face gently. "Don't say that. You worked for this. You earned every bit of it." He looked into her eyes for a long time. "Then why does it feel like I'm living someone else's story?" Before she could answer, the lights flickered again. Thunder rolled outside. Then a loud knock on the door. 3 slow knocks. Boom, boom, boom. Silas froze. Victoria whispered, "Who could that be?" He walked slowly toward the door. "Stay back," he said. He opened it and gasped. It was Bonita. She was soaked from the rain, trembling, her eyes wild. "Silas," she cried. "He's here. Simon is here." "What?" She stumbled into the office. "I was closing my shop when I saw him, not like a ghost. Silas, alive." He stood across the road, smiling at me. He said the same words, "The debt is not yours alone." Then he vanished. Victoria backed away, fear on her face. "Alive? But he's supposed to be—" "I saw him," Benita said, her voice cracking. "I swear." His eyes were red like fire. Silas walked to the window and stared out at the storm. "If this is real," he whispered, "then maybe it ends tonight." Midnight came. The rain didn't stop. They gathered in the living room of Silas's mansion. Silas, Victoria, Benita, and Pastor Daniel. Candles burned softly on the floor. The air smelled of oil and thunder. Pastor Daniel's voice was calm but firm. "We don't fight darkness with fear. We fight it with truth." He turned to Benita. "You said Simon made a vow using Silas's name." Benita nodded. "Yes. Then that vow must be broken by the same mouth that carried it." Daniel said, "You, Benita, will renounce it." Out loud. Benita's hand shook. "I'm ready." She took a deep breath and said loudly, "Simon, wherever you are, I reject every oath made with my blood. I release Silas from your chain. His destiny is his, not yours." The candles flickered wildly. Wind rushed through the room, though the windows were closed. Then a voice, cold, hollow, mocking, filled the air. Too late. The lights exploded. Victoria screamed. The room went black. When the generator kicked back on, the floor-to-ceiling mirror at the corner of the living room had cracked, and in the reflection stood Simon, tall, pale, eyes red, half his face burned, half smiling. Benita screamed and fell to her knees. Silas stood frozen. "You're dead," he whispered. Simon's reflection tilted its head. "Maybe, but you're living the life I paid for. What do you want from me?" "Balance." Pastor Daniel stepped forward, Bible in hand. "You have no power here. Leave this place." Simon laughed, a sound like glass breaking. "You think words can break blood?" The ground trembled. The candles fell. Benita cried out, covering her ears. Then Silas stepped forward. His voice was calm, but his face fierce. "Simon," he said, "you took everything from me once, my wife, my peace, my sleep. But you will not take my soul." The reflection grinned wider. "Then give me what you owe." "I owe you nothing," Silas shouted. He reached for the oil lamp beside the Bible and threw it at the mirror. The mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. A loud scream filled the air, Simon's voice twisting like smoke as the flames caught the curtains. The wind stopped. The sound stopped. Everything went silent. When the smoke cleared, Simon was gone. The fire died on its own, and the house was still again. Benita was crying quietly. Victoria was shaking. Pastor Daniel looked drained but relieved. Silas stood in the middle of the room, breathing heavily. His face was pale. Victoria ran to him. "It's over," she whispered. "It's finally over." He nodded slowly. "Yes, I think it is," but as he looked down, he noticed something, a small cut on his palm. It wasn't deep, but it stung. He frowned. He didn't remember touching anything sharp. Then, faintly, beneath his skin, right under the cut, he saw something dark, a mark, almost like a shadow. It pulsed once, then faded. He didn't tell anyone. Not yet. He just closed his hand, smiled weakly, and said, "Let's rest. Tomorrow's a new day." Weeks later, Syntech was back in the news, record profits, new partnerships, global praise. Silas and Victoria married in a small private ceremony. Benita attended quietly, sitting in the back row, grateful to be part of something peaceful again. As they cut the cake, Silas looked at Victoria and whispered, "We made it." But deep inside, something still whispered back, "Did you?" That night, when everyone left, Silas stood alone by the mirror in his bedroom. He adjusted his tie and smiled until the lights flickered once more. For a split second, another smile flashed back from the reflection, one that wasn't his. Then it vanished, and the rain outside began again. If you like this story, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more interesting stories.